Hello, happy Friday morning, everyone. Thanks for joining in today. Today, we are giving a little recap of the mini course that we just had last night. And I am Julie Hirschberg. I'm the owner of Re+active Physical Therapy and Wellness. And it is our mission, our deep mission, to help people specifically with neurologic diagnoses recover the movement, the strength, the confidence to get back to life and do this in a brain-changing way. And we do this through our physical therapy, personal training, occupational therapy, group exercise, and we do a lot of learning because neurologic diagnoses can be really complicated. Things change all of the time in the research and literature and understanding, and we want to stay up to date with that. And we specifically have a fellowship program where we help train other physical therapists to improve their expertise in movement disorders. Ataxia falls under that umbrella, and this is why we had a mini course. And I want to give a little side note because this is super exciting. I got word just this morning that the American Board of Physical Therapy Residency, Education, and Fellowship, I forget, there's a title for that, but they approved movement disorders as a specialty practice area, which is huge, and it means that we can have our fellowship accredited, which is awesome. So we've been doing this fellowship for 4 years already, and there's a lot of other groups of people, educators, clinicians who also want to start fellowship. So I'm really excited that that is going to happen. So that was a sidebar. As I was saying, ataxia. So this was our mini course last night. And honestly, I still feel a little bit of a high from being at the mini course. And let me tell you why. There's something I really love about our mini courses. And a big piece of it is simply being around other like-minded PTs and OTs and personal trainers that love to just dive deeper and understand, like truly understand the underlying diagnosis, the treatment, and just want to grow in order to help people. The discussions, the questions, the laughter about things, it just fuels my fire. And this is one of the reasons I really advocate for people with neurologic diagnoses to ask questions of their therapists, like how are they learning? What are they growing in? Because as I know, as you all know, with neurologic disorders, there's just so much to learn and understand. So that's why I'm still on a high, because being with people and learning with them it just drives me. I love it. And last night, Lauren Colgin, she is a neurologic clinical specialist, therapist. She's also the coordinator of our fellowship. She and Chelsea Richardson, who's our clinic director in Torrance, as well as a neurologic clinical specialist, the two of them put together an amazing course. Like, seriously, so good. And there were so many takeaway points. And today what I wanted to talk about were the ataxia cases. What did we learn from the 2 cases that they presented? Some of the literature that they presented as well, and they did a great job bringing in pieces of literature, including case studies that can really inform us. And then just some key takeaway points for clinical practice. So let's start with those cases. Both cases that they were presented, and I really appreciated this from Lauren and Chelsea, they were people that were very impaired by ataxia, not able to walk on their own. And we had some really great discussion about intervention. And I'm not going to give it all away because you need to purchase the course if you want to hear all of it. But I do want to talk about some of it. So we, as a group, talk a lot about assistive devices, including walkers. So one was that everybody like this was unanimous. Everybody said that having an upright walker, so potentially with forearm weight bearing and something that's heavier is helpful. So the U-Step is one of those walkers, the Life Walker, and then we've been trialing here the Life Glider, which almost has like it's like a reverse walker with a little seat built into it. It's hard to explain, but check it out. So those are things that other people have been working with as well and have found very helpful. So sometimes it's just finding that right assistive device that will help take the person from being dependent or not able to walk to being able to walk. So that was a really great discussion. And then the second thing that we talked about was the balance-based torso weighting. So if you haven't heard of it, there's a class all on it. It's in January in Southern California, actually. We're not affiliated, by the way, in any way, but Cindy Gibson Horn actually developed this vest after really looking for some solutions for people with ataxia. And I actually grabbed ours here because what I wanted to show you is how tiny the weights are. So one of the take-home points actually was like, maybe some people reflected like, maybe I'm weighting too much because these teeny tiny weights are as small as an 1/8 of a pound. So very, very little weight. And one of the patients in the case actually uses the vest for assistance with his ataxia. And Cindy has actually published some of these findings with the torso weighting that show some very promising results, especially in MS. And this is using, so one of the studies that she has published was from 2009. They had 36 participants with MS and showed that the use of the vest actually improved gait speed and the timed up and go. And here's the key. They did the balance-based torso weighting, and they use less than 1.5% of their body weight. So very little weighting in a vest type of thing. And so again, this isn't my device. We have consulted with Cindy with several of our patients to use this, and I do think it can be very helpful for people. It doesn't work for everybody, but can be very helpful. It fits close to the skin, so they actually, it's soft. They wear it on the skin under their clothes. And what I have found in some of the theory behind this is that it really helps improve some of the sensory input, the proprioception in different parts of the trunk muscles. So it's not weighting as in like, let me put on the weight on the front to bring you forward. It's not really that. And there's a whole assessment that you go through. So anyway, I highly recommend her course for that. And there is some literature behind it. And I think when we think about ataxia, sometimes it can be so difficult to make changes, and to have more tools like some lightweight weights can be very helpful. So that was some of the discussion that we had. And actually there is some other really nice literature on ataxia that Chelsea and Lauren presented. Home programs, a cycling program. We're not gonna go through all of that today. Again, it's in our course. But it's nice to see some really positive trends for physical therapy and ataxia. And so finally, I wanted to give 3 key takeaways from the course that I really took for myself and for my patients. And the very first one is knowing the differential diagnosis and the potential for medical management. So Chelsea had this really great slide showing some of the latest and greatest, like literally from an article in 2019 of new drugs and treatments that were out there that I was not aware of. And I think it's really important for us to be able to advocate for patients for some of those things. So she has a really great summary of that in our course. So knowing the differential diagnosis and the potential for some of the medical management that can help people. The second is to consider a long-term plan. So unlike some diagnoses, most of the cases in ataxia, changes can be made, but they might take a lot longer. And again, in both of the cases that Lauren and Chelsea discussed, this was the case. This is like a plan over the course of years. And these people were changing years later, which is very, very exciting. But the change wasn't happening in the matter of a few weeks or a few months. It was happening over a long period of time. And having that long-term plan of care to plan for some ups and downs as well. So I think that's something really good to think about. And Chelsea discussed too in the case about, how do you consider this with Medicare? And I think that is such a really good discussion point, and we talked about that in the course as well. And then finally, and maybe one of my favorite pieces of it, is using that optimal theory to drive treatment sessions. And I think we talk about this with any diagnosis, but using things like enhanced expectations, autonomy, and external cues. And Chelsea showed these great videos of where those types of cues really help. She had us all brainstorming different types of cueing to drive that motor learning. And I found that really powerful and a great take home. So that's it. Those are some great take home points. Our course was recorded. I already downloaded it and uploaded it to our site, so that if you want to dive deeper into this topic, I highly recommend this course. It was really fun, really good discussion to get you thinking about what to do in treatment. And the course as a whole also included a lot of background, so that like understanding the cerebellum's contribution to motor control, evidence-based assessment tools, really going through the research and clinical-based treatment techniques, and then these cases were great. And I think that the pictures, the videos are worth 1,000 words. So I highly recommend our Ataxia Mini Course if you haven't seen it already. Which Bethsaida, I know you're here and you were there, and it was great to have you as always. And one thing that I mentioned last night is that we have put together our mini course schedule for next year. We'll be putting that up on our website, but we do know our very first one, and it's probably going to be the most exciting of the year, is January 16th. And we have Alan Wu, movement disorder specialist neurologist from UCLA, joining us to do this mini course on dystonia differential diagnosis. And it's going to be awesome. He uses a lot of video, a lot of interaction, and I think people are really going to love it. We had him for our weekend course, and he was a real highlight to have. I love working with him, collaborating with him, so I'm really excited to have him for this first course. And stay tuned, because what we are going to do around that first course, so in the month of January, we're going to beta test our mastermind learning group. So if you're that person that loves to dive in deeply, loves to have a community of physical therapists to problem solve and brainstorm cases with, we are going to beta test that in January around that topic. So more to come there, but if you're interested, in December, we are going to launch the sign up for that. We only want a small group of 10 people to do that. So if you're very interested, join our list for our mentoring community on our education page. It's reactivept.com/education. And we would love to hear from you, so that you can let us know, so that we will then let you know once we open that up in December to start in January. I am really excited for that. As I said at the beginning of this Facebook Live, I love collaborating and brainstorming and talking through patient cases with people. And I think to do that in a community, a group of like-minded people is phenomenal. So if that is what you love as well, join us for that. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we will catch you next week.